Ha ha, what a game. What a game last night. It was a national championship game. It was big time. March Madness lived up to March Madness. That's why you see my man Seth Greenberg sitting up there smiling, cheesing like he's the second coming of George Foreman. That's all right, though. The March Madness was so hyped, even Keyshawn got a smile on his face. He just put on the frown right there, trying to deny, trying to act like it ain't there. But he in the house with his boy. He knows there's no place else he'd rather be. It's First Take. It's Seth. It's Keyshawn. It's your boy, Stephen A. You know what time it is, y'all. Holla at your boys! Woo!
Love will put it on the deck with 3 seconds, with 2, 3 at the top of the key. It is no good! It falls just short! And the last #1 seed is the nation's #1 team, Kansas, for the 4th time, men's basketball national champions.
To win when your team had to fight and come back the way they did and show that much grit makes this one off the charts.
Good day, welcome into First Take. I don't know if I can top that Stephen A energy, but always excited to see the one and only Stephen A Smith. Keyshawn Johnson, great to have you back on the program. And of course, Coach Seth Greenberg. I'm Molly Karaman. Gentlemen, let's get right to it because there's a lot going on, including Tiger Woods live in 1 hour. We will carry that press conference from the Masters on First Take, so stay with us. But about last night, the Kansas Jayhawks, congratulations, are national champions, the 4th title in program history, the 2nd under Bill Self. But it wasn't without adversity, pulling off a historic comeback, making their 72-69 win over #8 North Carolina, the largest comeback in men's national title game history. The Jayhawks, Agbaji was named the most outstanding player. Here's Coach Self on the epic win.
I don't know that I've ever had a team flip the script like we have probably in the NCAA tournament, whether it be Miami in the Elite Eight or whether it be this game. But you know, be special to win regardless. But to win when your team had to fight and come back the way they did and show that much grit makes this one off the charts. I thought this would be good. And this is a heck of a lot better than I thought it would be.
Coach, my dad always said no free rides in life. And that was a tough one. They pulled it off. What sparked the Jayhawks comeback?
The defensive end. This was deja vu. This is exactly what happened in the Miami game in the Elite Eight. Down at the half, how do you get back in the game? You got to get stops. If you get stops, then all of a sudden you can get out and play ahead of the defense, play in transition, get some easy buckets. Then all of a sudden you gain confidence. Second half, 14 points off turnovers, 26 points in the paint. Their ability to play downhill, but more importantly, their ability to sit in a stance, be physical, take North Carolina out of their rhythm, get stops so they can play ahead of the defense or create turnovers and play ahead of the defense. That was the difference in the second half. In the first half, North Carolina was comfortable. They were never uncomfortable. They got into their offense. Armando Bacot dominated the paint. They had 18-2 points in the paint, second chance points in the first half. In the second half, though, Kansas flipped that switch. So it starts on the defensive end. Bill Self did a masterful job. He attacked matchups. Christian Braun in the second half got 3 consecutive buckets in a row. And at the end of the game, when they needed a bucket, they didn't go to Ochai Agbaji. They went to David McCormick in the block, rebounded his own miss, put it back, and then when Armando Bacot was out the next possession, caught it against Brady Manek, worked his way in, and finished with a little jump hook. Big time, impressive win.
Well, that's coaching. That's coaching because Bill Self saw the disadvantage that North Carolina was at because their big boy went down by re-injuring that ankle, which was sad because I think it could have been a different outcome, although I'm going to give Kansas a boatload of credit. They were playing at a slower pace. They obviously weren't nearly as aggressive as we anticipated that they would be, not to mention the fact they only forced 5 turnovers in the first half, and then in the second half they came out like a bats out of hell and forced like 5 turnovers within the first 7 or 8 minutes, went on a 31-10 run for crying out loud. They just showed you what Kansas is all about. They played in the second half the way we anticipated they would play in the entire game, and North Carolina sadly didn't have the depth I think we looked at their talent and we said, excuse me, they've got some brothers that can play. There's no doubt about that. But they were absent the depth that they needed. They had to rely on their five. They had Johnson coming off the bench, the brother of Cameron Johnson for the Phoenix Suns. This kid's got potential. I liked he played big time off the bench in the second half, and I give him a lot of credit where it's due. But in the end, what it came down to was Kansas, their pressure, the fact that they applied it to Carolina. Carolina didn't have the depth that they needed. And Caleb Love, who I said coming into this game, he had to have a big game. That was their shot. He only had 13 points. He was running roughshod over everybody throughout the NCAA tournament. In the second half, that was not the case last night. Only finished with 13 points. Had he had a bigger game, I think it would have been a bigger outcome. It's not his fault that they lost, don't get me wrong, but had he had a bigger game, I think Carolina could have pulled this out, but give credit to Kansas for negating that from happening.
You know, Stephen A. and Coach, when I look at Caleb Love's situation, and I'm glad you went there, Stephen A., he had an opportunity late in the game to knock down some buckets, and he missed shots down the way. But also on Hubert Davis' side, this is a big situation for him as a coach. Didn't use his necessary timeouts, and you can speak to that, Coach, because you know timeouts are very valuable. That's why in the National Basketball Association, they use their timeouts. And for whatever reason, North Carolina decided not to when they had the opportunities. They didn't call a timeout to set up the right play down the stretch with Caleb Love. He missed that shot, and then the rest was history at that point.
You do what your habits are. All right. So, like in the history of North Carolina basketball, Roy Williams wouldn't have called a timeout in that situation. Dean Smith wouldn't have called a timeout in that situation. You might have thought Hubert would because of his NBA pedigree, but you are what your habits are. What do you practice in that situation? You do time and score all the time. And basically, in that situation, obviously, in their ODOs in practice, they don't call timeout. They get it, they go. They have a couple things that they're going to try to do. But you guys mentioned Caleb Love, and some people are kind of hating on Caleb Love right now. The reason they were there is Caleb Love. He makes tough, guarded shots. That's what he did against UCLA. That's what he did against Duke. The same shots he missed yesterday are shots they rode to the Final Four and the national championship game. He is not afraid of the moment.
Hold it, Coach. Hold it, Coach. Let's be real here. First of all, we ain't throwing any shade on Caleb Love. We know that they're there because of him.
You guys.
We just talked about last night. Well, even the critics out there, they're not talking about. We know what Caleb Love is capable of doing. We got love for Love. We saw what he does. Last night wasn't one of those nights. That's all. That's all. Ain't a crime. He had bigger nights. He certainly had a bigger night in the semifinals against Duke. All right, he had a bigger final in the elite, and a bigger second half in the Elite Eight. We get all that. But last night against those monsters in Kansas, okay, you needed him to be the same dude that he had been, and that didn't happen. That's all. It's not a crime.
Look, yeah, it's not a crime, but I mean, those are the shots that he could make. But the idea to me with Caleb Love, and I said this before last night's game, is Caleb Love wants the ball in that moment. He wants that shot. He expects to make it, but he's not going to make them all, and he can live with it. And when you're that good, you can live with it. The more interesting thing about Carolina, before we go back to Kansas, is that team, minus Brady Manick, they could run it back because all those guys could return.
Yeah. Let me just wrap this up by saying this, though, Coach. You brought up a great point on Get Up because I was thinking this has been a great college basketball season, such a great tournament run. I had so much fun watching all the games. And it's because sometimes you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And we missed it the last couple of years. So seeing the stands full and everything after the pandemic, it really is great to have it back. And what an incredible tournament that we did have. All right, Coach. Coach, I put in 5 miles yesterday trying to catch you. You're looking great. We'll talk to you soon.
There we go. Stay busy. By the way, Tiger, I think he's a good story, Stephen A.
Oh, yeah. We might talk about him a little bit. You know what? Thank you for that transition. Now to another athlete that knows plenty about overcoming adversity and championships. It's Tiger Woods.